especially with PR applications. Once their application is submitted to the government, all the communication between the government and the client goes through me. So they're not answering the phone. Well, you never answer the phone. It's all by email. So I take all those questions, talk to the client. Okay, they want to know this, they want to know that, they want this document, they want that document. So it takes the pressure off the client, who mainly their English is not their first language. So they're not crazy about dealing with government, and some of them are fearful of government in the first place. So it just makes it a whole lot easier for them, and they feel more confident in the process.
So you were watching very closely this fall when there was a big problem with the students not having accommodation. There was some protests, and you had some insight about that. How would you describe what happened this fall and going forward?
I'd say a lot of good photo ops there. Yeah, there was some agitators came in from Montreal, and they wanted to stir things up, and they did. They got some media play out of it. But I think the issue was way overblown. There likely were a few students who had trouble getting accommodation, but these are adults. You don't move to a city without arranging accommodation ahead of time. So the whole thing was really fishy to me. And a couple of my clients told me, these people, yes, we all have rooms. We all got rooms before we got here. This organizer from Montreal was trying to stir things up, and what his objective was, I don't know.
Well, they did come into a pretty hot market, and you watched our podcast interview with Upar, who described that there was not a lot of options. It's a pretty tight market and pretty high prices for some, though.
Yeah. Well, my clients, they're living, the single ones, living 6 to 7 to a house, that sort of thing. So they find a way. The married couples, some of them are 2 and 3 couples to a house, but they're finding them. I told you 325 clients. Nobody has told me that they haven't found a place to stay. Nobody, So I'm seeing clients every day. So it's not the issue that it was made out to be. I'm sure there were a few that, but they came in late, obviously. Maybe they decided at the last minute they're going to go to school in North Bay. My suspicion is that they were from out of town, down south, Mississauga, Toronto, Brampton area, found out about the RNIP program, the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot, say, hey, that's the fast track to permanent residence. I'm going to go to Canadore College. And it's a last-minute decision. So they got here and, where am I going to stay?
Some of that too.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of planning ahead of it.
That's interesting. And so we don't know what the motivation was for the group that really was spearheading this with the media.
Well, from what I read in the media, the organizer, this guy from Montreal, was saying they wanted their tuition money back and they wanted to be able to do it online from down south, which I think Canadore allowed them to do that. Oh. So they didn't stay here at all anyway.
Oh, but then did they get the benefits of the RNIP program?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
That part they didn't figure out.
Okay.
You have to live here.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Really interesting, because it was interesting that George Burton wasn't coming out and talking about it.
Yeah, it was.
And,
yeah. It should have been a little quicker.
Yeah, it was it's really interesting. But I think he was the first that I read when he came out to speak about it, was about that these are a nefarious group that's overblowing this. And it's like, okay,
It was a leverage play, right?
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Gain some media attention to use as leverage.
Yeah, sounds like it to me.
Never heard of that happening before, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and what to realize, like Scott said, with the RNIP program, if you take a 2-year program at Canadore College, you have to be here for 18 months of those 2 years.
So tell us about the RNIP program. What does it stand for?
Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot.
Okay.
Fantastic program, and that's why I'm so busy.
Yeah.
Because the word is out among international students that the Express Entry program is very difficult to get your permanent residence through that, because it's all points-based. The older you are, the fewer points you get. The more education you have, the more points you get. The better your English language, the more points you get. But you're competing against hundreds of thousands of people. and there's only draws every few weeks. So with RNEP, you're competing against hundreds of people, not hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
So the word is out. Mainly what I'm seeing is people who come here lived in a smaller city in India or Philippines or wherever they came from, and they would rather be in a small city. They don't want to live in Toronto. But an awful lot of immigrants do. Like we call it TMV, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. That's where they gravitate towards. But we're getting people who came from a small city and want to be in a small city, and it's working out really well for them. So it's a two-step process. First, they have to go through the North Bay RNIP committee. There's two coordinators, one at Yes Employment, one at the Chamber office. They have to do a few things online, fill out a work form, offer of employment form, put their client profile online with the North Bay site, their English language test results. And if all that lines up, they get an email from one of the RNIP coordinators, usually Heather Van Veen at Yes Employment, and she sends them a questionnaire all about living in North Bay. How long you been here? Have you made friends? What are you doing? That kind of stuff. And if she's happy with the answers, she takes her file to her committee, which is the Chamber, the City, Economic Department, Economic Development, Labor Market Group, and Multicultural Center, Yes Employment, and the Chamber. End of every month they have a meeting and they go through and award community recommendations. So once they have that community recommendation, then the fun begins. They actually apply for permanent residence. So they have to get that community recommendation before they can even apply.
Wow. That's quite the process.
Yeah. So the North Bay process takes a month or two, depending on what kind of job they have. I know Heather's been holding back fast food jobs lately because she got a bunch of them at the start. She says, I don't want to be swamped with fast food jobs. I want to get all the other skill levels. So if they're a high skill level, they'll go through it in a month, 2 months maximum. And then they get the community recommendation. Then it takes us 2-3 weeks to get their PR application ready and submitted. And then they're looking at about a 6-month wait before they get their permanent residence.